Hallo almal, ek is bly julle is hier. Ek is dankbaar vir julle tyd. Ons praat vandag met 'n besondere man. Dit is kolonel Louis Botha, ook bekend as Hammer. Nou die man was geïnstrukteur gewees by die ou spoorwegpolisie college in Esland Park. En daarna was hy spesiale taakmaglid ook vir die ou spoorwegpolisie. Maar hy is een van twee ouens dink ek wat opgelei is in Wes-Duitsland by GSG 9. Nou op Legacy kon ons nog nie hierdie manne in Janne kry nie. Ons het nou vir Louis Hammer Botha gekry. Hy vertel sy storie. Ons het hom ook gesien met die instrukteurs. Hy het 'n paar grappe vertel by die instrukteurs se samekoms. So is 'n wonderlike man. Hy vertel goeie dinge. Weet julle, dit maak 'n wêreld vir ons oop waarvan ons nie eers geweet het nie. Ons weet van die ouens wat opgelei is in Israel. Ons het van hulle hier gehad. Ons dink aan André Olivier, aan die Weermacht se spesmagte, die rekkies. Ons dink aan James Tytge, hy was ook in Israel gewees. Ons dink aan Frans Fourie, wat 'n klomp hondekos gevoer het vir generaal Viljoen en 'n paar ander mense. Ja, so kom ons hoor wat het Louis Botha gedoen in Wes-Duitsland. Hallo internet, ek moet vir julle sê, ons is besonder bevoorreg vandag. Ons het een van die spoorwegpolisiemanne van hulle taakmag wat actually in Wes-Duitsland opgelei is deur die GSG 9. Nou julle ouens mag dit dalk nie onthou nie, maar hulle ouens het baie beroemd geraak. Net so 'n jaar of twee voor dit met die Lufthansa Boeing dink ek of Airbus wat hulle ontset het in Mogadishu. So kan ek u vra, wie is u?
Good morning, Koos. My name is Louis Botha. Going under the nickname of Hammer. So I would prefer it if you call me Hammer as we go along.
Hammer, may I say to you, very welcome, yes sir. We're grateful for your time. And can I ask you, just tell us the story.
The story about Hammer is for our next story. What I want to do now is, I want to tell you and your viewers about my story. Where I came from, what I did and how I progressed in life. I was born in the Eastern Cape, and due to my father's occupation, we ended up in the Free State in a small town called Villiers. This is where my life I spent it as a child. I went to school in Villiers, and I can still recall the mischief that we went through before a rugby match. You know, the pinching of grapes. And the ultimate pinnacle to that rugby match is whether you lose or win doesn't make any difference. But it was the bus ride. The old manne, the more experienced children or boys in school, the back of the bus was their place. And lo and behold, if one of those youngsters tried to sit there, he was immediately thrown out of where you were. As I said, the back seat was reserved for the bigger guys. I matriculated in Villiers, and you wouldn't believe it. During those days, I was, as a surprise to my classmates, I passed matric. None of them actually believed that I would do it. Even the teachers, one of the teachers had the audacity to say to me, "You are not going to make it." My parents, they didn't say anything, but you can feel the atmosphere. There was a little bit of doubt whether I will make it or not. I had such a no-worry attitude to the extent that a day before I had to write the woodwork theory subject, I had arc eyes. So I fooled around in the garage instead of studying. I went through the story. My father was one of those no-nonsense type fathers that will not let you hang around idle. Before the end of December, I was interviewed and accepted by prison services. Starting date, 10 January 1973. Nogal het groenpunt, meer vereniging. But for the heavenly intervention of fate, on the 9th of January, me, my father and a friend went to Johannesburg just to hear what the railway police was about. Needless to say, that when my father saw me later that afternoon, I was a full-fledged, sworn-in railway policeman destined to start my career in Kroonstad. 1973 was not the usual 2 intakes for training, but only one course that stretched from May to September that specific year. On completion of the course, I was transferred to Jan Smuts Airport, then Jan Smuts Airport, under the pretext that you will like it here. There's so much to do. And then they came with the final carrot. You can work overtime and gain more money. I worked there as a common garden variety policeman, which gave me a lot of life experience. I remember coming a little from a dorpie, and now I end up here. That was mind-boggling. 1975, things start to happen for me. I was selected for the Special Task Force Rural Training Section, Spectre 2, in Oudtshoorn. We stayed in tents on Kansasvlakte. Now Kansasvlakte was on the Calitzdorp Road from Oudtshoorn to Calitzdorp. On the right hand side there was a big defence force area. That year the military intake in Oudtshoorn was so big that the overflow of troops was based on Kansasvlakte. There was a distinct difference between our tents and theirs. Their tents was in neat rows, whereas ours, let me put it this way, if you approach the tents from the town side, you can see it right through our base. It looked like parachutes, everything hanging in the air. And the dust, oh boy, the dust. We didn't take much time to clean up the place. You sleep in your sleeping bag. Tomorrow morning you turn it over so that the dust is at the bottom side, and then you just flip it over again when you want to sleep. Even the commander, they used the same excuse as us. The vacuum cleaner was broken. As a result of the Special Task Force training, the rural part obviously, I was fortunate to be deployed to Oshivello in Southwest Africa for a few times. You simply be called by the station commander and asked, or you were told that, are you ready to go to the farm? One should remember that at that stage South Africa was engaged in a bush war. The smuggling of everything, whether it be persons, arms, ammunition or other illegal items, was the responsibility of the railway police. The trains went as far as Tsumeb. From there on it was bus transport. This later escalated into the escorting of convoys, and in 1976 fate smiled at me again. I wrote exams and was promoted to the rank of sergeant, and transferred to the last outpost of the British Empire, Pietermaritzburg. 1977 I was selected for instructor's course in Oudtshoorn, the old Fafa school. Everybody that went to that part is familiar with the terminology. The powers that be in the railway police was adamant. Instructors will be trained by the army, end of story. Our company consisted of permanent force members from all over the country, and it included 3 railway policemen. Our company resorted under the HQ company with the infamous Sergeant Major Jack Pierce. That name alone would say a lot. If he talked out of the corner of his mouth, all hell is about to break loose. Instructor's course is not fun and games. It is tough. 2 things that stood out for me is that I quickly caught on that if you prepare a lesson plan, and everything went about lesson plans in Fafa school, if you prepare your lesson plans, always start in English. The instructor will then have no option but to ask you to switch over to Afrikaans, and then you fly. The second incident is when I got angry with a 1-pip lieutenant and asked to speak to the OC, Colonel Botha. A lot of us have known with him. I explained that I was there not because I have to be there, but because I want to be there. I requested to be RTU'd. Colonel Botha realized that this is a serious matter, and for never in the history of the railway policeman asked to be transferred from Saga school back to his unit. Colonel Botha postponed the meeting until the next day. When I walked in the next day, the station commander of the Oosthoorn Railway Police Station was there representing the commissioner. To cut a long story short, I withdrew my RTO request, and I maybe mentioned that if that pipsqueak bothered me again, I would bliksem him. He must have been relocated to another company because I did not see him again. Since the completion of my instructor's course, I first worked at Ashland Park on an ad hoc basis. And later full-time. Here I tried to turn somebody else's child into a human being. I must have done something wrong, or something right. Because some fathers, especially police officers, asked their boys to be placed with me. I gave them hell, male or female. I was once told not to be so harsh on a female platoon. My response was, same job, same pay, same training. On the parade ground, I ruled. And I didn't try to impress you. Don't try to impress me with who your parents are, who you know, or your gender. Doesn't work that way. In 1980, I completed the bomb disposal course and explosive control, presented to us by the officer of the then security branch of the South African Police Service. As a guest student, Eugene de Kock was part of that course. At that stage, nobody knew anything about the man, except that he was an officer in the SAP service. In 1981, I was recalled from holiday to SPAR Special Task Force training. Once again, Lady Luck smiled at me, but I think that she crossed her fingers behind her back. The instructors was not nice guys. They are not there to be nice guys. They felt like the enemy. On the second day, I noticed blood in my urine, but no pain, no gain. Task force training was a pure hell. You did things that normal people would not do. One would think that task force members are these big, bulky guys with knoppen for muscles. They were not those kind of guys. Because those knoppen guys is like a bull terrier. You have to point him in the direction of a fight before he can do anything. The opposite was true. More slender built, but strong with a heart as big as a bus. Clever and capable to think on his feet, and when adrenaline kicks in, nothing will stop him. Being in the task force was a little bit like of a pony show. The guys hated it when guests was invited to see them in action on an airplane. I recall one afternoon we did a demonstration. Afterwards, the topic of disarming a person holding a hand grenade came up. One of the guests, a police officer I must mention, volunteered to hold a dummy grenade, and I have to disarm him. Took the grenade off him and choked the living shit out of him. Was it not for Brigadier Worra, who patted me on my shoulder, that guy would have been injured. I was team leader of at one of the doors, right one, and during that afternoon, one of my pointsman cut his finger rather bad. You know the drill. On entry of the aeroplane, everybody was told to sit down. A senior officer from another force wanted to see better and stood up. Big mistake. My pointsman hooked his bloody finger into the officer's mouth and forced him to sit down. Pure fun. Because of my instructor's background, I was utilized as a technical instructor in the task force. In 1983, me and a colleague was sent to the GSG-9 in Germany for training in their special task force. People know worldwide known as the University of Urban Warfare and Anti-Terrorist Training. Compared to other countries, including South Africa, was in an infant stage, well, that's what we thought. They were still riding high on the Mogadishu success. An opportunity of a lifetime, and I will return to the training in a little while. 1984 was the year for me. I was tasked to present an instructor's course at the Railway Police for railway policemen at Slagbloem, a rural training centre near Addo. For weeks on end, I photocopied, sorted and bound lecture material for the instructors to be. All the course instructors were highly trained and I was given a free hand to pour all my FAFA schooled and later acquired knowledge into those lads. The then Commissioner of the Railway Police said during a visit, "The instructors must hope that this thing will work." He was from the old school. It was a roaring success, which showed that with the right mindset and the determination, it can be achieved. In the period 1986 to 87, I received training from various institutions other than the police. For instance, National Intelligence, Recce in Durban, negotiators course presented by MPI, Ops Medic courses passed 1, 2 and 3. A highlight of my career was the Sky Marshal training I received in 1989. We physically built an indoor shooting range resembling the inside of a 737, seats, galleys and all. Live firing was done in the mock-up with other marshals in the seats while another marshal went through the drills. We were classified as dangerous lunatics, too stupid to be scared. Who in his right mind will sit in an aircraft while another person is shooting over your head? The answer is easy. A Sky Marshal. Once again, being an instructor assured my utilization in the union. I had at my disposal a full gym for whatever I could think of and a classroom. Selection for the Sky Marshals was fairly easy. Pass the psychological test and come so that we can teach you how to shoot and beat you up. Easy. Andre got hold of a box of rooi lappe, meaning boxing gloves. The idea was that everyone should don a pair of gloves and hammer each other in a free-for-all. The instructors were part of this, but would single out one who is not giving it his all. They would then pounce onto the poor thing and properly bliksem him. Moral of the story? In order to dish out, you must be able to receive. Another rather physical game was called struggle ball. The object of the game was to get a medicine ball across the goal line of an opposing team by any means. The rules? There was no rules. The referee? There was no referee. The game usually ended with small groups in a fight all over and the ball lying to one side. Andre more than once used those rooi lappe to vent his frustration after being called to HQ for something that one of the Sky Marshals did. He would walk in, take off his shirt and say, "Almal van julle, trek hy loper aan hy rooi lappe." He would then tackle all of them at the same time. Oh, what a glorious way to donate blood. It was during the Sky Marshal training that I was shot through both legs by a fellow Sky Marshal. An accident, of course, and no hard feelings between us. Me, out of commission for 6 weeks, and Andre cooked the story to such a way that there came nothing from the investigation. We even had a visiting instructor from LR to train us their techniques, and of course we traded information. In 1997, the Bomb Disposal and Explosives Control Unit became an independent unit in the police service with the primary function of being explosives control. During this time, various courses was done, for example, robotics, basic electronics, air transport of dangerous goods, illicit nuclear trafficking presented by IAEA, basic chemical and biological countermeasures, poster chemical and biological incident management presented by the United States of America, explosives ordnance control presented by South African Defence Force, and bomb scene management and terrorist investigation presented by Scotland Yard's SR13. It was in this unit of experts that I ended my colourful police career in 2014. In 1999, I convinced my commander that it would be to the benefit of the supporting units if I could undergo a training course as a hostage and suicide negotiator. What better person to evaluate a situation where possible explosive barricades are used than a bomb technician? Useful information can be gathered for support teams like the Special Task Force or the Fire Department. But life is but a paradox. First I get trained to kill people in any possible way. Then I train other people to kill people in any possible way. And now I want to save lives as far as in any possible way. Mentally it was the most tiresome 10 years that I spent in the police. It being a duty done on a standby basis, but becoming your primary function as the need arises. I cannot tell you the frustration that when you talk to a drunk person 3 o'clock in the morning. To look down the barrel of a gun in the hands of a disturbed person was not fun either. It feels like you're looking down the barrel or looking down a 6-inch pipe. Although negotiation was about saving lives, there's some humor to it as well. I recall a situation where a drug-addicted man held his wife hostage and was willing to give himself up and hand over the firearm on the condition that he get injected with some drug. We had a doctor that came especially to assist us in this. He prepared the drug that the drug wanted and to make sure that the guy was not killed. The concoction was so potent that it did not only knock the guy out, his heart stopped. And the same doctor had to resuscitate him. I will conclude this chapter of my life by saying that the service rendered as a negotiator, I was awarded the 2 commendations by the National Commissioner of the Police Service and by the National Commissioner of Police Service in 2027 and another by the Provincial Commissioner of Police in Gauteng in 28. I would like to return to the GSG9 training. Surely the pinnacle of my task force training. Like I mentioned, me and a good friend, also a member of Rafa School, instructor, at that stage a second in command of the unit, was sent to Germany for training. We went under the disguise that we were from Australia. To them, Australia could have been on the moon. Our disguise did not last for very long because they had a guy in their technical team that not only came from South Africa but could still speak broken Afrikaans. We joined up with the group doing their basic course with an instructor capable of translating to us. They went out of their way to accommodate us. When they had classwork to do, we were left on our own, which usually included running. There's not much else that we could do. In one of the suburbs we nearly got locked up by the police because apparently running on the streets is not allowed. Fortunately, his English was as poor as our German, and with a wave of his hand we were let go. A lot of the training was not new to us. We learned a lot, we were there to learn a lot of how do they do their training. Abseiling, we knew. Bus penetration, we knew. House penetration, we knew. Train penetration, we knew. So was penetrating aircraft. Concepts that was new to us was the different firearms they used, and then obviously fast roping. Boarding and taking control of a vessel on the water, sniper shooting at night with the PSG-1 using night sight equipment. At that stage it was so freaking cold outside, your fingers feel it was frozen. Could hardly feel the trigger. Clay pigeon shooting was new to us. And they were not very big on us on that, but they presented it to the students. We, being boertjies, quickly showed them that as babies we cut our teeth on bullets. It teaches you how to lead on a moving target, which is very handy. All our time with the GSD was time well spent, and we came home with a truckload of information that we implemented in our training curriculum. At that stage, we, in South Africa, already had the input received from the Yam. Something that I noticed that there is a clear distinction between the heavies, the Omana, and the newbies. They will talk, the old guys making fun of the youngsters. We did not really mix with them. They were constantly on standby in higher situations, Returning to South Africa, it was a little bit of a letdown for us. We came back from a specialized training institution where money was not a factor to a situation where we either had to beg, steal or borrow to get equipment. Our first fast roping rope was made up from old 9mm abseiling rope that we tied together. It worked and we used it for a long time. Fear is not in the vocabulary of a task force member, and you made do with what you've got. The frustration came when you are not an independent police force because we have to make use of the railway budget. To them, the special task force was not a priority. I was a proud member of the South African Railway Police Task Force. It gave me a purpose in life that cannot be taken away. Come what may. Training not only teaches you to function in a group, but also as an individual operator. The techniques learned during training was used by members even after they left the task force or the police service. Unfortunately, there's also a downside to specialized training. I'm quite sure that this is something experienced by members of specialized units all over the world. And this is that the training conditions you to such an extent that family is not your first priority anymore. The secrecy, unreal working hours, time away from home, and at least of all, I cannot talk about it. It takes its own. Some of those relationships ends either in separation or something else. Will I do it again? Despite all the aches and pains? Yes, in the blink of an eye. The decision not to join the SMP Special Task Force after the amalgamation of the two police forces was mine, and I have no remorse for not joining them. I was fortunate to train some of those guys. We remember the General Mike Fryer. He was a lieutenant at that stage. I trained them on aircraft operations, but that's where it ended. As a blessing in disguise, it opened an opportunity for me to train Sky Marshals or Air Marshals, something which gave my career a total new dimension. I would like to end off my story by telling you how that's now me and Johan, became part of a demonstration in Bonn, in Germany. There was a lot of the people shouting slogans and singing songs. We merrily walked along with them, laughing and smiling. Some carried placards, flags and banners with the words SS-29. It was only that when we watched the news that evening that we realized that we were part of a group of 250,000 people demonstrating against the use of SS-20 missiles. It never crossed our minds what Botha would have done if we were arrested. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colonel. If I may ask you a few questions, if you don't
You're
mind, sir.
welcome.
When you came back and you introduced fast roping, that was probably the first time in South African Special Forces it was used. So did you have to teach or train the pilots and the flight engineers as well?
To us, we had to train them. Yes, of course, we had to train them. But they just have to keep that machine steady. It's a state vehicle. They just have to keep the thing steady. We will do the rest. To dispatch a team of, or let's say five teams from an airplane, Puma helicopter, took us 15 seconds. The first guys, they sat in the door. The rest, as they run forward, they just grab that rope and go down like hell. We didn't lose anybody on fast roping, but there were certain restrictions to equipment. For argument's sake, if you have a gas mask on your face, to do abseiling, normal abseiling, was very difficult because you can't see how far you're from the bottom.
Now these fast ropes, were they weighted at the bottom so that they could hang steady, or would you use your weight of your body going one by one down?
We went down two guys together, side by side, facing opposite ways, with your legs on your side. Otherwise, if you have your leg between the other guy's legs and we come to a stop at the bottom, one will be incapacitated. So the weight of the rope alone kept it restricted. There was no need for us to put weights or anything on the bottom.
Now tell me, sir, how quickly do you have to move away from the bottom of that rope before the other guy falls on you?
Like lightning, otherwise they're on top of you.
And when you go down like that, where's your firearm? Is it hanging loose on your chest?
If it's a firearm, it's a pistol, the first pistol will be in your holster on the right hand side. If it's a Uzi, the Uzi will be at your back.
But before you would fast rope down on a target, you would know exactly where to go.
Oh yes, that's all part of the planning.
Now,
Planning of an operation is a very complicated thing. There's a lot of people that don't realize if you don't plan properly, you are bound to make mistakes. And mistakes cost life. So yes, you plan properly. I was once, during an operation, we came to lockeries with some of the guys from another force, whereby they wanted us to rush up to a house where there was terrorists inside. And I said, no, we don't do it that way. We plan properly, we do the things the right way. And it was fortunate that when we entered the house, one of the people inside ran to a room, and if he wasn't tackled on top of the bed that collapsed underneath the weight of the both of them, he would have got hold of the firearm that was under the bed. So to me, planning is critical.
well, it is the seventh piece of the old army, isn't it? Proper planning prevents poor performance.
Exactly.
But I need to understand something, sir. When you go down with your fast rope, and then I'll let the subject go, do you form up as a team first before you penetrate, or do you just go and the guys are behind you?
We work in a team, pointsman, coverman, marksman, and team leader and ground grenadier. That team work together. You don't break up things. If it necessitates to do that, you will obviously break up the team. But working as a team, the pointsman know exactly what the coverman will do. The coverman will know exactly what the grenadier will do. We can interchange. In the group, we can interchange. The team leader stays as team leader, it doesn't matter then. But the other guys can interchange. So you must know exactly where to go and what to do. And I must know, or I will know what you are going to do and where you will go.
Colonel, can you tell me about the weapons and communication systems used by the Railway Special Task Force?
Because yes, we had a radio set that was built into a helmet with earphones and a mic on top of that, connected to a hand radio that formed part of your kit. Firearms, weapon of choice was a 9mm high-power Browning, as well as the Uzi 9mm. Your grenadier, in most of the cases, had a pump action or a semi-automatic shotgun, which they used. And then everybody had his own R4 rifle, the Galil. That was the first time it was actually utilized by special or task force members, was the Galil. The R1s was available with telescopes on it, and then there was other sniping rifles available to the guys that works in the sniper team. Everybody had his own firearm because it was set for his eyes. You don't interchange firearms unless it was necessary to do so. You also don't interchange your abseiling equipment. I'm responsible for my own abseiling equipment. I don't change my abseiling equipment with anybody else, and I don't lend it out to somebody that is not trained in abseiling equipment. So that is very important to us. Obviously, we had at our disposal a variety of foreign firearms, foreign weapons. You as a task force member might come across those, and if you don't know how to operate the thing, don't know how to work a AK-47, don't know how to work a Galil, don't know how to work a Mosina gun, then you'll end up in problems. So you need to work with those things, you need to train with those things and know exactly how the thing works.
Now I understand that the enemy used the Tokarev pistol, and that thing has penetration capabilities of second to none. Did you people ever wear body armor?
Yes, we did. We had body armor that was, the old generation body armor was massive. It was heavy, it was cumbersome, it problems. And we had a company called Clansman that made new body armor for us that was shorter on the right side where your pistol fitted, so that you can easily reach your fire. Those Kevlar plates in the front and in the back. We used a battle jacket with a built-in abseiling equipment in a harness built into it. At the back there was a medical kit. On the front there was pouches for extra magazines, for the Uzi, for the pistol you had it in also extra magazines, shotgun shells and so forth. It was a fairly nice thing to have, and it worked very well with the guys. Everybody made it fit for himself, and we used it right up until the end when the unit was disbanded. You talked about the Tokarev. Tokarev, as far as I am concerned, is one of the most amazing pistols that I ever came across in my life. It utilized a 7.62 by 25mm round, and it was capable of penetrating certain Kevlar at a certain range. But the nice thing about it is it can take so much abuse. That thing can actually lie in water for months. Come out, shake it, and it will fire.
Now that you talk about fire, so when you penetrate any type of hostage place, whether it's a train or an aircraft or whatever, are you still a policeman? Are you out there to arrest, or are you out to kill first?
I think it's a very difficult question that you ask me now, because saving lives is your first priority. So this guy or person, let's call him a person, to use the word terrorist is usually not very friendly, because it can be a disturbed person. So you want to arrest him, you want to bring him to court, you want to tell him that the court must take their procedures, but if it's necessary to kill him in the event to save lives, you will go for it.
So you will engage him. If he does not surrender right there, you're going to engage.
I will definitely do so.
Now, so what happens if one of the passengers now freaks out and rushes you or something? One of the hostages.
I will not call it collateral damage. I don't think so. But with all the mechanisms available to your disposal, you will eventually, if you do kill people unnecessarily, there is mechanisms available to help you.
So the lesson which I deduct from what you were saying to me is that when a special forces team like the Spoorweg Police Department goes in, you as a hostage who's just sitting around there or lying around, do not intervene with these people. Just let them do their job. Don't rush them. Don't try to hawk them. Don't do anything stupid. Just keep down and let the team go over you.
Oh yes, oh yes. The thing is that if he doesn't do anything, they will contain him, and to the extent that they will make sure that he doesn't do anything else to put people in harm's way.
With such a rescue, of course, it's a very tense situation. And the hostage himself might then experience that these rescuers might grab him and drag him out in a rough way, because they don't know if he's changed because of a Stockholm syndrome or exactly who he is. So still at that stage, do not resist, just go with the people. That's what advice.
Yes, yes, sure. You better do it, otherwise you will definitely get injured. I can recall that during a training session, I was a photographer. I had, to my exposure or to my availability, I had a video camera, and I walked openly around with the thing, and my job was to film the whole exercise. But the people that came aboard, the task force members, they mistook me as one of the terrorists, and they really manhandled me. They really manhandled me. Don't try and explain to them, yeah, but this is the story, or I'm doing this. doesn't carry any weight. You must remember that if we go to the, or reach the stage where we use the special task force or any special unit, we have already by that point we have used up all other resources available. It is primarily it is a uniform branch thing, but then it escalates to a point where, sorry guys, we don't come through to these people. Let's get the task force in and sort this thing out once and for all.
If you have to leave a message here for somebody, perhaps your former mockers, your people you worked with, or people watching here, do you have any words of wisdom for us?
Of course, yes, I do have. The first things I want to say to them is, thank you for the opportunity I had to train you guys. Thank you that you are there and capable of carrying this torch as you go along. I'm sure that the small amount of input that I had in your training, you were capable of using it afterwards to a great extent. Thank you guys.